Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and at tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to another DM's Guild review, my written and video review series. Take a look at the adventures and supplemental material at the Dungeon Masters Guild website. With this video, I'll be reviewing the mini-adventure Aldri's Wonderful Laboratory, designed by Yuri Rodriguez for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. A review copy has been provided for the purposes of this review. If you enjoy this content, consider using my affiliate links for online shopping and supporting me via patreon.com/Rogue Watson. Everybody raise your hand if you're excited about Tier 3 adventures. Yeah, what we get here is I'm going to use adventure in a very loose term because it's really more of a single dungeon crawl, but I like dungeon crawls. I like adventures that are basically dungeon crawls, so that's what this is. Designed for levels 12 through 14. This is a Tier 3 adventure dungeon crawl taking place in a extra-dimensional tower in the Astral Sea, which is a pretty cool location for an adventure. Fans of, I was going to say Tomb of Horrors, but not like the difficulty level of Tomb of Horrors, more like if you enjoy, I guess if you enjoy your dungeons that are not hack and slash, but more exploratory, filled with traps and secrets and puzzles, then I think you're going to like this more than if you just like the hack and slash. That being said, I think it does have a pretty good balance between all those different pillars of D&D play. There's plenty of combat opportunities, there's plenty of NPCs to interact with, and good role-playing opportunities, and of course, a lot of good, as I mentioned, puzzles and traps and secrets, the actual exploration part. So for that reason, I think this is a mighty fine adventure with one kind of glaring negative quality to it. Unfortunately, it's right at the beginning, which is it doesn't have uh, good motivation, like proper, like a good quest to actually couch the entire experience. It has a bunch of adventure hooks, which are also kind of their own little introductions. Like each of these that you're seeing on this page right now that we're looking at is an adventure hook. These four like big with like multiple paragraphs. That's a little too much from what I expected from Adventure Hook, but the Adventure Hook just gets you to the location. Maybe gives your players an idea, but I'm still hoping. I don't like when the Adventure Hooks take the place of allowing your players to talk to a quest giver and get some more information and maybe get some kind of context about what they're doing. And I've seen a lot of people just kind of glossing over this beginning part of the adventure. And this one definitely does the cardinal sin of that. And I just didn't feel like there was ever a proper motivation to actually even go in this tower or any excuse of like why we're exploring it. The why is just that it's there and the DM has this prepped basically. In fact, the designer even says like, hey, you could just use this as a random encounter they come across. Like, well, yes, you could. And it's even designed like that where they just kind of walking along a forest trail, they see this mysterious like stone mushroom looking thing, and they can basically make a skill check to try to get inside of it, and that's where the whole portal to this dimensional tower thing is. You don't really know anything beyond that, and I think that's kind of a missed opportunity to maybe give them some reason to explore this location. And even the adventure hooks, it's just kind of like, hey, go see this weird thing. We don't really know anything about it. It's not even really it just kind of points you to an area, I guess, just to explore. So if you're okay with just exploring something for exploration's sake, then it's fine. But for me, I would like to give my player some further context. What I would do is say maybe your players need some high level magic ability, or they're just interested in high level magics or magic users, because there's a way they can get their hands on the wish spell that this wizard Aldri was actually banished to the Astral Sea because he became like too powerful with the wish spell. And you can get your hands on a scroll of wish, which I guess would give you like a one-time cast of it. You can get that in this dungeon towards the end of it. So like telling your players ahead of time they could maybe acquire that would be pretty good motivation. But something, I don't know, I just think there needs to be something there. So to me, that's kind of a negative, that it doesn't really start off very well because I don't really have a good quest or idea of like why we're here, what are we doing here, what are we exploring for, what's the reason for being here. Now, once you get far enough in, the Aldri actually does appear as a like, image or something and kind of talks to the players a little bit, so you get some kind of explanation. But even then, the explanation there is just like, well, come see my laboratory and check things out. Like there still isn't like a really good reason, or you don't have a quest for being here. Although there are some sub quests once you finally arrive. So it starts off with you exploring this little school because our wizard friend had some little pupils at one point, And there's some cool backstory there where the names of his students are actually relevant to a final puzzle, and that's the puzzle that eventually unlocks the door to get the Scroll of Wish. So you have to get these, you have to actually explore the school space, get these specific notes, and then once you've got the notes which have the names of the students, which there's 4 of them, then you can solve the puzzle, which is much later on, like the 8th level or whatever. It's a giant tower, by the way. I went through and counted the rooms because it divides up by towers. Sorry, by levels. There's like over 30 some rooms in this dungeon. The product itself is, by the way, about 60 pages long, but the actual adventure's only, I say only, it's 20 pages long an adventure. It's still pretty huge, and everything else is just kind of extra content. It's the maps, it's the magic items and the scrolls and everything. But there's still, I was very impressed by how just densely packed the content is within just a single dungeon crawl, and the level system means it gets to be linear while still giving the players a chance to explore each space of that level. In fact, it really reminded me of Dungeon of the Mad Mage, albeit with a much smaller scale. So Dungeon of the Mad Mage had, 20 some levels that players could explore, and each level is almost its own biome with its own like politics and factions and things going on, and you could choose to explore as little or as much of one level as you wanted to an extent, but your main goal is just to make it to the next level. That's kind of the idea here, where the main goal is to get to each other level, but a lot of the levels have their own different things going on. Once you pass the school, you get to this kind of you enter the portal, which is the Astral Sea, which is an astral dreadnought floating around outside. You don't want to go out and fuck with that thing. You stay in and you go up the tower levels. You have to fight this guardian at first, which I wasn't sure what even this is. It says she's got a name, and then in her stat block, it just says she's a large monstrosity or something. It never even explains what she is, though. I was very confused about having to picture it. There's no art for the characters, unfortunately, and what art there is, I'm 99% sure this is AI generated. If you look at the kind of it's kind of easy to recognize it once you start looking at AI generated art, and this looks very in the cover too. Which, by the way, I don't automatically have any kind of revulsion to AI art necessarily, but I think folks do need to credit it as using it for sure. And there are no credits for any of the maps or art throughout this piece, which that's another big no-no for sure. But I was annoyed that we didn't get some kind of creature art for some of these creatures that are rather unique. So once they either battle or make it past that creature, and it matters whether they battle or just make it past, because every single interaction here can either be a social interaction or a combat interaction. There is still combat to be had in the form of these drones, AWDs, ASDs, whatever they're called, these construct robots that are scattered throughout the level to give the player some nice pacing breakup between all the exploration of the traps. There's just, guards and drones you have to battle. But in addition, you can actually fight all of the NPCs as well, and the DM thankfully has designed all these interactions that you can in fact battle all of these different things. In fact, even the last, quote unquote boss, Aldri himself, you can either just talk to him or you could fight him, which I think is kind of nice, very Fallout-esque, I would say. In terms of the cool, traps and rooms available, one of the first things you can do is grab Aldri's staff. But that's kind of a classic, almost Indiana Jones style puzzle where you have to grab it. There's pressure plates and poison darts are flying out. There's an alchemical lab that summons demons and uses their essence to create this powdery stuff that the Beholder later wants. And I think the Githzerai wants it as well on a different level. There's one point you can sit in these 2 chairs and it just swaps souls between each other. That's kind of a insane, RP nightmare, but also hilarity, I think, can ensue between players. There's, of course, opportunities to set off gigantic explosions on certain floors. There's a floor that houses a bunch of artifacts that are all in anti-magic zones. And there's a very complex trap that goes off the second you try and take something, and then it secretes all this poisonous shit everywhere. You have to get the hell out of there. Basically, if you enjoyed the death trap style puzzles, and the exploration, but also the rewards from it. The dungeon never seems particularly cruel. Honestly, I think the designer does a good job of doing the laboratory theme. A lot of it does feel like, these are magical or alchemical laboratories and creatures in here that would just make sense for them to be here. Whether they're visiting diplomats or the beholder who's been kind of subjugated by Aldri and is actually bored with his current existence and kind of antagonistic toward the players, but not outright hostile, and almost kind of provokes them to a battle, which is kind of fun. So I think there's a lot of fun stuff going on here, and it just feels very, very well paced. I can't speak to the balance necessarily, because I think in tier 3 balance kind of goes out the window anyway when you try to create some kind of balancing system for that high level of play. But I appreciate that all of the enemies are at least seem pretty strong, and all the traps have high DCs and high damage. It feels like it's all pretty well balanced in there. But also, this is not meant to be a big slog of a hack and slash dungeon crawl. It's meant to be more of a cerebral, like, exploration and finding all these different traps and things to get by and be rewarded with loot. And also, you get a chance to grab all of these encrypted scrolls. This is probably one of the most unique reward systems that this dungeon uses, because you gain all of the new spell scrolls, of which there are like over a dozen, I believe, that all have to do with like manipulating gravity and reality and Vortex Warp. Well, Vortex Warp is an actual spell from I think Tasha's, but spells like that basically, and they're all new spells, but they all appear as loot as encrypted scrolls. In order to decrypt them, you have to essentially do the quests by the NPCs, and one of the rewards you can get is that they can de-encrypt some of those scrolls, which is kind of clever. So very interesting to use that, and of course one of them is the wish spell that you can use. So, and the designer thankfully goes through some eventualities where if the players are hostile to everything, then here's what happens. They can just shunt it back. But there's not much of a conclusion here, because it really wasn't much of an introduction either. It's just, it almost feels like the whole thing is just a random encounter, but it happens to be scaled up till tier 3 and happens to include a mega dungeon crawl. So I guess this is how you can make kind of a random encounter that way, but not even, it's not an encounter though, it's a full dungeon. So it's a random dungeon encounter. I don't know where you would throw this into an adventure if you've got tier 3 and you're looking for some extra content, and maybe allowing your players, especially if you've got a spellcaster who's maybe looking for some more cool spells, which, Lord, at that level, I'd be very worried about giving spellcasters more power and more opportunity to get crazier stuff. But this could be a pretty good way to do that. We do get full color battle maps. Stat blocks are all included here. I did like that we got little descriptions of all the backstories for the characters, even if we didn't get like physical descriptions or art necessarily. This is when I'm talking about this H2 Mayhai. I have no idea what this creature is. A large monstrosity is all I have to go off of in a spellcaster. I cannot picture them at all. But I appreciate that they'll have like their different motivations and little backgrounds and things. I don't know. That makes a lot of difference for me. But we do get full color battle maps, which I appreciated. I don't know who the artist is on these. I don't know if the designer did them themselves or what the story is, but that was a huge bonus for sure. I would say that if we could please get these maps, leave them here, but also embed them in the adventure, because one thing I hate having to do, it's really just hard for me to visualize a dungeon crawl while I'm just reading the room descriptions. It helps immensely if I can look at the dungeon map itself and then flip back and forth and then say, okay, there's how this, and this is here, and then they'll go here or here, and then that, it just works out the overall pacing and lets me see like what the options are for players and how the whole dungeon kind of comes together. If I have to flip between, what is this, like 20 pages or something, that's just not going to work very well. So I was very frustrated with trying to glean the overall structure of this multi-level dungeon while having to flip between the appendix and the actual content. And that's an easy fix to me, which is just take each of these maps and embed them somewhere where they're supposed to be. And that would be a huge plus for me. It sounds kind of nitpicky, but honestly, it makes a big difference to be able to not have to flip back and forth. But as you can see, like a lot of cool uses of different, terrain and different circumstances. Like there's like a room that like has this floating rock that operates as the gravity room. I think that's where the beholder is also. There's the dryad room right there. It's another NPC you can chat with in the final showdown with Aldri themselves. So I was overall, I think, impressed with this dungeon. I will admit that just making it a tier 3 dungeon crawl is already making me interested. It's not something I see very often. I'm very interested when folks explore high level play. Anything over like level 10 for me is automatically going to be interesting, and I think this does a good job of Uh, Utilizing its theme of a wizard's laboratory tower, the extra dimensional thing feels like it's appropriately exotic and cool and high level. Just when you first like get teleported there and you're in this tower and you see out the window this astral dreadnought, this giant I picture the giant worm creature things from the Avengers movie, the first one, just like flying outside, and you're like, oh shit, we're not in Kansas anymore. Like that's just a really cool theme and a neat moment. And then to have it kind of escalate slowly from there, but still be able to give the players a chance to just explore this very, very large dungeon space is I think, pretty interesting and well worth checking out. Let's go over my pros and cons for Aldri's Wonderful Laboratory Pro. An excellent balance of combat, role-playing, traps, puzzles, and loot. I think it does all of those things very well. If you are expecting more of a just hack and slash, you will probably be disappointed, but as long as you enjoy a more balanced approach to all of those different pillars, but especially I think the exploration pillar is going to be at its highest here, because to me that's where all the traps and secrets and puzzles are located in that pillar. Then I think you're going to really like it. But I enjoyed that there's a big NPC to talk to, for example, on every other level, who's legit there to chat and even has their own side quests and things. But also the designer has a contingency in play for if you decide to attack that person or just if you're a dick to them or something. So I appreciate that the role-playing pillar is certainly there, and of course, there's plenty of combat opportunities. Pro, 13 new spells, and a unique way to acquire each one via encrypted spell scrolls. So I didn't actually go over the individual spells themselves. Crushing Gravity, Distortion Blade, Phantom Step, Reality Crack, Solid Warp Wall. All of this has to do with, interdimensional shit, which is fantastic. And all of these spells, you can get every single one of them, plus the Wish spell, through those encrypted scrolls, which are seeded throughout this dungeon, and then you can de-encrypt them via other means. So I thought that was a really neat way of rewarding players with some unique spells that are not found anywhere else. And that's just a cool idea. Pro, over a dozen magic items, including a magic mana potion, which has 2 different side effects requiring 2 different saving throws. The first one, if you fail, you have to roll on this D4 table of terrible things that happen, like gaining a lot of exhaustion or just petrifying yourself. The mana potion, by the way, restores all your spell slots, so it's super fucking good. But even if you do get that and you restore all your spell slots, you have to make another saving throw, or else the next day you cast a spell and then a bad thing happens. It's really dangerous. I love the high risk, high reward here, though, because you got to imagine anybody would still maybe take the risk if they were in a dire straits and they're like, fuck it, I need to be able to cast my spells again and get long rests. So really cool idea for some magic items. And again, appropriate to high level tier 3 play. Also, pro, full color battle maps for each level. I don't know if I guess these are already technically DM friendly, because there's no annotations directly on the map. I don't know if these are separate image files you can get, though. This was sent to me directly and not via the DM's Guild, and not download it from there. So I'm not sure, but I appreciate the map art as always, and that's really nice, especially in a dungeon, especially in an adventure that's literally 100% dungeon crawl, and the dungeon itself is super large. That would be a nightmare to try to parse through without a map, and it would be not fun to have to do without a VT capable map. So super thumbs up for that. Cons, the lack of a motivating quest or structured introduction or whatever reason the players have to actually explore this thing is a con for me. I kind of disagree with the designer's philosophy that this game just thrown in anywhere and it's kind of a random encounter. It's too big for that, though. This is way too big of a deal to be a random encounter. This is something that would take multiple sessions, and I don't think it could start just you come across this random ass mushroom thing, go explore, and there's a portal to the Astral Sea, and that's got a tower in it. It's too many things going on. It'd be better if this were actually you know what, give me a quest. Hey, we heard about there's this gnome wizard. He it kind of reminds me of Mechanical Mirage, really, where just even just which another adventure I reviewed, even just a rumor or something where hey, there's this wizard who was once master of the wish spell, but he was banished to the Astral Sea, but we've got a lead that, his thing has appeared somewhere in the forest. Go check, give the player some idea of what they're going after and some reason to. I don't think it would take much, but I think it requires a little bit extra motivation to get the players to explore, and that way they're not halfway through going, okay, wait, what are we doing here again? The other con, which I did think is an important con, is that it lacks credit for the art and the maps. Again, I don't have a specific problem with AI art specifically. I'm 99% sure that's what's being used here, but I do think you need to credit it as such, as well as just any of the map art that's used in here. And I couldn't find, there's no like, in fact, there's no credit page at all. If you go, here's the first page right here's the cover, and the second page just immediately jumps into it. There's no like table of contents or something like that. So a little bit of organization and editing thing right there would be nice to have. Final verdict. Though the introduction is lacking, the extra-dimensional tower of Aldri's wonderful laboratory is packed with nasty traps, interesting NPCs, and satisfying rewards. Thank you to everyone for watching this video review. You can see my written review at roguewatson.com. You can watch more reviews, follow our own D&D adventures here on the YouTube channel, and support my work at patreon.com/Rogue Watson. Shouts to Platinum patrons: Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brandon, Zenicider, Eclectic, Roleplay Roll, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F, John L, Scott, Eric, Tyler, Nathan, Camp Crystal, Counselor, Andrew, Daryl, the Reldron, Captain Woody 79, Stephanie, Andy, Patrick, Jason, Ismail, Amit, and Lumpy Spuds. And gold patrons: RPG Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, Newman, Does the Lounge, Sam, Jerome, Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, Scott, Rufus, Carolyn, Jerry, Thomas, and Glenn. Thank you all very much for your support.